And Alan Mendenhall is a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation and a senior advisor at the Free Enterprise Initiative. Good morning, gents.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's break down the great news and the not so good news. So is this the start of a true cooling off period for the global economy, or just a temporary market exhale before the next shock? Let's start with you, Mike.
Yeah, look, I think that this war is likely to wind down sooner rather than later. It's in everyone's best interest. And then the posturing you hear from not only the Trump administration, but from Iran, is simply to negotiate better terms. And as soon as the ceasefire was announced, you knew that we're going to end up with some sort of deal. If traffic resumes to pre-war traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, you're going to see the price of West Texas, the price of Brent, drop substantially, and then potentially within 6 months be sub the start of the war. Obviously, there's a lag time between what consumers are going to feel at the pump and the price of oil you see on the screen. But if, let's just say, that happens in the next week, by the middle of June, you could expect gas prices, at or near $3 a gallon, and then kind of get off to the races. And on a broader standpoint, you had 4 companies announce $700 billion worth of capital expenditures in the U.S. to build out their AI infrastructure. So, from a broad perspective, the U.S. economy is humming, even though we're going through a speed bump right now.
Yeah, great earnings across the board as well that have been buoying markets too. Alan, curious to get your perspective as to where we stand right now. To Mike's point, there is a bit of a lag time in order to see those oil prices come down while we're celebrating futures and everything we're seeing today, because there seems very likely that a deal will be had. People are still they're experiencing pain, and we don't want to minimize that at all, because we're all watching as we drive by the gas stations, myself in particular. I'm like, oh my goodness, $5, we're almost there. So what's your take as to when we'll start seeing those prices come down? Do you agree with Mike's assessment there?
Well, my answer is really the same today as it was a month ago or 2 months ago, which is until the Strait of Hormuz is open and the conflict is over, we're not going to see tremendous relief at the pump. But this end of Project Freedom, which lasted really only about a day, signals normalized shipping and the end of the conflict on the horizon. We've also got other promising developments for when the conflict's over. For example, UAE left OPEC last Friday, officially as of last Friday. So it has hopes of producing up to 5 million barrels a day. It's been constrained by quotas, and it's tired of that. It wants to make money. It wants to produce more oil. So we're going to see more of that. We actually saw 4 members of OPEC and 3 members of OPEC Plus decide to reduce their oil supply over the weekend, but it's minimal. They're going to increase it by 188,000 barrels a day. And to put that into context, 2 of those countries, Saudi Arabia and Russia, already produce 9 to 10 million barrels a day. So 188,000 between all those countries is not that much of an increase. At any rate, once this conflict's over, once the Strait of Hormuz is open, I think oil prices are going to come back down, and that will be great because markets are doing well.
Well, not so doing well is Spirit Airlines. The sudden shutdown wiped out about 17,000 jobs and took a major discounter out of the skies at a very moment fuel costs are surging. And the experts warn that means fewer flights, higher fares, especially for working class travelers. And Mike, I think I can guess what your thoughts were when the announcement came out regarding Spirit Airlines. If the government did not intervene, then we would not have had a 100% job loss, maybe 30%, right? They always try to seek out the best solution instead of looking at the best trade-offs. How do you break it down?
Yeah, this is, look, I think the Babylon Bee put out a picture of Elizabeth Warren holding the scalp of Spirit Airlines, yeah. which look, these Democrats, they killed it. And I don't know why they picked on, essentially a budget airline that serve an important part of the market. There's people that the only way they can travel via airfare is with these discount airlines, and so you see a lot of viral videos of some not so good things that happen with them. But there was what the important takeaway is here: there was no reason for this to happen. Okay, the free market was working. JetBlue wanted to buy them and fold them into their operations, and that would have greatly helped both of them because JetBlue's a better run airline. And then you're adding a lot of routes like that. Really, you would have been able to cut a lot of costs from Spirit, and JetBlue probably would have been able to upsell some customers. But the government decided that they wanted to destroy that, and you got to ask yourself, what's next for JetBlue? They're gonna, it looks like they're gonna aggressively expand, and hopefully they win from this. But the entire airline industry has been one of them going bankrupt and government bailouts, and it's I'm not a big government bailout guy, but you need a functioning airline industry, and if you're subsidizing this, you're really subsidizing the economy. So almost every single airline across the world has failed and been bailed out or is subsidized in one element or the other. And for the Democrats to just block this is not only nonsensical, it's blowing up in their faces, although I don't think they'll ever really pay a price for it.
Well, you know what? JetBlue CEO should send Congress, specifically Elizabeth Warren, a thank you note. Why? Because now JetBlue can actually buy those assets for pennies on the dollar through bankruptcy court.
Yeah, also send Pete Buttigieg a thank you as well, because he was a major person trying to block this deal from going through. But Alan, I'm curious to get your quick perspective, final thoughts here on what happened with Spirit. Should we have bailed them out, especially given the fact that the government is trying to increase their stakes in certain companies such as Intel? I mean, we have about a $9 billion equity stake there. So should the government be involved in a lot of what we're seeing as to this M&A and just in general taking a stake?
Well, let's get the timeline correct. So it was under the Biden administration when the antitrust prevented that JetBlue Spirit merger. So
yep.
that's a big point. But when it comes to the bail, and that should not have happened, by the way. But when it comes to bailouts, I think markets work best when there are no bailouts and there's no favoritism. So I think letting Spirit fail actually avoids a moral hazard. We saw from the 2008 banking crisis what happens when you start subsidizing risk, and we don't want firms taking risk expecting taxpayers to cover the losses. Bailouts actually shift the cost to the taxpayers, and individuals shouldn't be forced to subsidize failing businesses. Now, again, timeline, we also shouldn't have had the government interfere with the JetBlue Spirit merger, but also, I think failure is a feature of capitalism. It clears out weak models, it rewards discipline. So I don't think bailouts were the answer either.
Okay.
So true. You know what? The only one I want in my way is God. In terms of government, take a back seat.
All right, Alan Mendenhall, Mike Lee, as always, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you.